got it. And then I've got a PowerPoint with images, and I can't see my notes while I'm showing the images. Well, there may be some, so we'll just have to see how that bit goes. It doesn't matter, because anyway, you'll get to see the images, you'll hear the introduction, you get to see the images. Somehow or other, it will all come together. And then there may even be singing at the end. So, it's going to be exciting to see how it all works out. So, I kind of, while I was writing my talk, I called it a galaxy of Bodhisattvas. So that's what we're going to have tonight. And when we first encounter Buddhism, I think we find these building blocks, don't we? There's this wonderful framework of potential practice set before us. Maybe meditation is the first thing we have, and then ethics, and then maybe devotional ritual. And these all form a foundation for our lives. They're a bit of a Venn diagram of overlapping elements, a mandala, in fact, of components that hold new adventures for us. And another part of this mandala is the realm of the Bodhisattvas, and the Bodhisattvas themselves, as we've been seeing in previous talks about the Bodhisattva ideal and the vow. So these offer us such a complex and rich world with cosmic resonance. It's quite vast and spectacular. And they also reverberate in the minuscule and the microscopic, and in our present everyday and everywhere. To meet the Bodhisattvas, it's really a question of receptivity, of us being open to what we don't know, and taking into account our own experiences, really valuing these moments of seeing. There's lots of layers to explore with this, so we'll just take a look at some of the first sort of obvious ones. I think maybe the first layer that we encounter are the names. We encounter these in the talks at classes. So tonight we're going to meet 6 Bodhisattvas, and their names are Avalokiteshvara, Manjughosha, Green Tara, Vajrapani, Padmasambhava, and Prajnaparamita. Wonderful, aren't they? And then after their names, we might get to see paintings. And these are very often striking images full of symbolism, beauty, and color. They might be old, they might be traditional, or they may be a very new interpretation. And they can strike a chord in their beauty, perhaps in the painting or in a textile rendition or in statue. We often use the word rupa, which is the word for a 3-dimensional figure of a Buddha or Bodhisattva. And these are static images or icons. So bearing in mind that the image is not the thing that's important, it's our response, which to begin with may simply be pleasure in seeing something that's been crafted with care, resulting in a beautiful object. So the second layer we encounter is the sound through their names, through mantras and through seed syllables. We often chant these in devotional practices, in meditations and in rituals, and this feeds into our impression and experience of them. And hopefully we're going to hear some mantras later on. The third layer might be when we hear about the essential qualities of each bodhisattva. They all hold every aspect within their singular realm, but they shine with a spectrum of individual qualities that strike us on first encountering them. So Avalokiteshvara is the bodhisattva of compassion. Manjughosha, the bodhisattva of wisdom. Vajrapani, the bodhisattva of energy. And Green Tara, the quintessence of compassion. And Padmasambhava, the bodhisattva of transformation. Prajnaparamita, the bodhisattva of wisdom. These words gladden our hearts and offer what we inherently know is true, They indicate to us something which is actually quite hard to talk about, a doorway through to a whole other universe, a whole other world of experience. And perhaps we also get a taste of this through the exploratory science going on in this generation now. It leads us through to a world that's hard to comprehend. And this is also the expansive flavor of the Bodhisattvas realm. Conversely, they may strike us occasionally as a little cozy. Maybe we can attach to them as our personalities incline, or with sentimentality. And that's okay too. It's like being far from the sea, but we get just a little tang of salt in the air. And in this developing relationship, they can certainly offer us comfort and support. As we paddle deeper into deeper water, we're touching on something that's almost impossible to speak of, a whole different dimension of reality. They make a cosmic call to us, and we're invited to explore it. And it is a unique and singular journey that we can all make. It's very different from meditation, which we could talk about endlessly. The angles, the approaches, the techniques. It's a never-ending feast of conversation, of teaching and courses. But the Bodhisattvas are a little different. They invite us into something that's not to be squandered, that's infinitely precious and may need to be nurtured and valued. We're invited by them to participate in their world. On ordination into Triratna, you choose a personal yidam, a bodhisattva or a Buddha who rings true for you and calls for you in some way. And you're taught the practice by your preceptor, you're given the practice by your preceptor. And therefore it's handed down through this lineage that streams back in time, maybe hundreds, probably thousands of years, and it will flow forward too. Bhante Sangharakshita was given initiation into these bodhisattva practices, which we're looking at tonight, known as sadhanas. The meditation on each bodhisattva is known as a sadhana. And he was given these by Yang Khyentse Rinpoche in 1957. So these practices have been handed down through generations, and he has given them to us in the order. So what I've discovered in my relationship with the Bodhisattvas is a really deep treasure, and it's something incredibly precious. How they show up for all of us is as individual as we are. And it's important not to undervalue how they show up for you. Don't dismiss the subtle intimations. Maybe the images and mantras don't really do it for you. The images are in fact only a pathway, a prompt and a recollection. So it might be something else that reaches out to us in quite a strange way, maybe through color, sounds, music, smells, memories, dreams, through nature. Something may just really appear and become very influential in our lives, become very significant. And however it happens, it's there for us to explore. And it becomes part of our practice, part of our Venn diagram, our mandala of meditation and friendship and ritual, etc. So this talk is really a little bit of a bridge between this session's theme, which is the Bodhisattva ideal, and next session's theme, which is the sevenfold puja. And the puja, which we are planning to investigate in depth, is the main devotional ritual which we use in Triratna. And in itself, the puja is an abbreviated Bodhisattva's journey. It's a joyful recognition at first of what is most beautiful. And then we move closer to the great ideal, involving commitment, committing ourselves more and more. And as we begin to train, we begin to realize the enormity of the task too, and how it needs to be undertaken in a spirit of appreciation. We travel imaginatively right through to the transcendence of the self and that pinnacle of altruism which the Bodhisattva embodies. Right at the very end of the puja, we chant eight or nine different mantras, each one 3 times. And these closing mantras are the sound evocations of these 6 bodhisattvas and Buddhas. So this evening, I'll introduce briefly the 6 bodhisattvas, and I've got images of them to show you, hopefully. And then Tara Loka Retreat Center recorded mantras chanting in their shrine room for our Zoom generation and lockdown. So we can listen to some group renditions of a few of the mantras. So these 6 bodhisattvas are the foremost of a great company. There are many iterations of them born in the Mahayana school of Buddhism, which began to develop a few hundred years after the time of the Buddha. And these mysteriously and spontaneously arose from the depth of collective dharmic practice of the great teachers. So now I'm going to try and screen share. So I think Nagabodhi has got to make me host. And then I have to screen share. And then I have to find my, not the talk. Here we go. And we want to go to slideshow. Oh, view. Oh, it's not responding. That's a bit weird. Let me try again. Oh, maybe it is now. Here we go. Fine. We're off. Not that one. That one. Right. A galaxy of bodhisattvas. Now, because of my technical hitch, I can't actually see my notes as I share this. So I have asked Nagabodhi and Vimlachita to chip in when I get lost, which I'm probably just about to. So we're going to start with Avalokiteshvara, and Vimlachita did talk about him last week. And what is he? He's the cry regarder. And he is the bodhisattva of compassion. And in his infinite compassion, he is trying to save the entire world and all beings. And he makes a vow to do this. And when he does become overwhelmed, he shatters into these 1,000 pieces and has to be recollected by Amitabha. So we get different iterations of Avalokiteshvara. We get the 1,000-arm one. I've got one of those in a minute. But I really like this Avalokiteshvara who has 4 arms. And at his heart, he's holding the wish-fulfilling gem, which is the Bodhicitta. And he has a crown with the 5 jewels of the 5 Buddhas. I think most of our Bodhisattvas tonight have that. And he's sitting in meditation. So this is a lovely rupa. And here, well, it's a brave attempt, isn't it, to get your 1,000 arms in and each hand holding a tool or an implement designed to help. I mean, it's a great imaginative conception, isn't it, with all these faces and heads. I think he'd find life quite hard, but you know, we get the picture. He's also a great emblem for Sangha. You know, this is the collective spirit of Triratna. He's our sort of patron bodhisattva because of his just this enormous will and wish for the benefit of all beings. And this is a painting of Avalokiteshvara, so you can see through the different cultures and times that the images can be so different. There's always something that will resonate with you. I did think this is a lovely painting. I think it's quite a contemporary one. And you often get Avalokiteshvara as well, just with the normal 2 arms and 2 legs in what's called, isn't it regal repose? No, it's something repose. Something repose. Oh, and I love these ones of him in repose, that the curve of his wrist and his little feet with the soles of his feet together. But what a face. It's wonderful. And here's another one of him. He's climbing down out of his meditation to come and help us. Bodhisattvas are often most usually they are envisaged as young as 16 years old at a peak of health, vitality, and beauty. So they're sinuous and flexible. And he looks very sinuous and flexible, doesn't he? Okay, so the next Bodhisattva is Manjughosha, and this means the gentle voice. And there's two actually similar, they're kind of what's the word? They're kind of both the same, but they're also slightly different. There's Manjushri as well. So Manjushri is auspicious gentleness, and Manjughosha is the gentle voiced one. And isn't that interesting? Because here he is with his flaming sword, and yet he has such a lovely, soft name. And the flaming sword is sweeping through ignorance, and it's supposed to be so sharp that if you dropped a silk scarf on it, the scarf would just simply float down to the ground in two pieces. There'd be no effort involved. It's almost like the sword provides an just a kind of cutting through ignorance. It's not supposed to be anything wrathful. It's just something that can cleave its way into insight. And he's another very beautiful, beautiful young man, like honey held up to the sun, his skin. And he's supposed to, I love this, he's got long black curling locks adorned with blue lotuses. That's nice, isn't it? And I think this is where the difference comes in. Manjughosha has lotuses on which sit the perfection of wisdom, is it? Or Manjushri holds the text to his heart. Because in fact, he's also, he's the Bodhisattva of the intellect. He's there particularly to help us clarify our expression of the Dharma, to help us teach. He's a patron of the arts and the sciences. He's there to help with eloquence, so I could be doing with him right now. It's a very interesting. That's a beautiful, beautiful colored image, isn't it? And this is a painting by Aloka, who's an order member. He's been an order member for many years and decades, and he's really spent his life painting tankas, painting bodhisattvas and buddhas and murals for our centers. And so his whole life he's been doing these, and you will find lots of them around the place, and you can see them develop over his lifetime, and he paints them over and over again. And he has a particular style. And I just think it's an amazing practice he's had, this man, just keeping going with this tradition and providing us all with kind of current contemporary images. So I've got a few of them in here, and they are often available to purchase at Padmaloka. They have a shop online where they sell some of his images too, if you're interested. And this is a gorgeous painting, I think, by Chintamani, who's also an order member of many years standing, who is an artist and has painted one or two just really beautiful images, and he's made Buddha Rupas for our centers too. And at the moment he's not very well, so it's really lovely to be thinking of him and just appreciating what he could do. There's something really special about this one, isn't there? It's a lovely look somehow. He's definitely gazing out from the galaxy of Bodhisattvas, isn't he? And I love this too. This is Aloka, and it's just a little face of Manjughosha, but I think it's really lovely in its simplicity. And another of Chintamani's. So bright and airy and young, isn't it? Somehow lovely, youthful energy. Now something completely different. I haven't got very many images. I meant to try and find some more. So hold your breath, because this is different. This is Vajrapani, and he is your friend. He is your very best friend. And actually, when I was writing this and doing wee bits of research in it, I just suddenly wanted Vajrapani. I just thought, he's just great. He's so useful. He is energy. He's a tantric bodhisattva. So the tantra just sees everything as energy. And Vajrapani is basically supporting our energy to transform into energy in pursuit of compassion and wisdom. And he's having no truck with anything that gets in the way. So where our energy is so often blocked, isn't it? We lose interest, we get distracted, we get tired. He will help us to transform ourselves. So he welcomes all of us, the good, the bad, and the ugly of us. Vajrapani wants the whole shebang, and he only sees it as compost for his transformative powers. And he has a mandala, a mala, a necklace of skulls and a necklace of snakes. And usually somewhere or other there's a tiger or two as well. So these are our primal fears, the things, you know, through our primitivist history, things that will fear, give us most cause for fear. And he just says, bring it on. You know, he adorns himself with our fear and helps to unlock the energy in these fears and release us from it. So he's really quite something. And actually, I'm really sorry, because there is a beautiful, peaceful form of him. Most of the bodhisattvas actually do have a wrathful form, but Vajrapani's is particularly wrathful. But there is also a very beautiful, peaceful form of Vajrapani where he's just looking handsome and gorgeous. But we often like him like this too, because wow, it just does something to me, doesn't it? You do just a little bit of a shock to the system. The cold morning shower in tantric form. He's holding a thunderbolt. I'm missing out loads of things with all this. There's so much symbolism and iconography in each of these. And people give talks on each one, you know, so I'm skipping through just to give you a taste. And this one you may have already encountered, because she comes up a lot. And this is the wonderful, the lovely, and the gorgeous Green Tara. So she's a young woman. She's green in color with the most beautiful blue eyes you've ever seen. And she's the quintessence of compassion. She's born from the tears of Avalokiteshvara, the myths tell us. And she is quite something. She's very mysterious, because in some ways she's incredibly approachable. She's very, very near us. So there's something very immediate, I think, that we can all recognize in this beautiful young green woman who's stepping gently and gracefully out of her meditation posture into the world with her hand ready to help us. And all she wants to do is tenderly support us in our efforts to be human and in our efforts to transcend suffering. So she's kind of there in everything that's beautiful, in every flower, in every cloud, in every smile, every gesture of generosity and simple friendship. Somehow or other, Tara is there. But she's also just totally unknowable. There's something very, very mysterious. Banti says somewhere she's the essence of greenness. And goodness only knows what he meant by that. I mean, the whole thing is just, when you really start to get into it, I think she is very, very, very elusive, actually. She seems very immediate and she's very ready, but also she's leading us very gently by the hand into something we just don't know what it is. We really don't know what it is. So here's Aloka's green Tara. And I think you do get something of that there, something in her eyes of just wow. Tender yet fearless. She's a savioress. She's described as a savioress. Fearless and the path of beauty, I think Sangharakshita says about her as well. If you follow Tara, you're following a path of beauty, which he says is, I can't think of the word, indispensable. You know, we actually need this as much as we need Vajrapani transforming and looking at our good, bad, and ugly. We also just need this appreciative, gentle, tender, lovely approach to life and to the spiritual life that she guides us through. Nice, gorgeous one, isn't it? With water and the pool and the creatures. And Amitabha at the top. And she has lotuses. She has stems of lotus in her hand, the way the Buddha did after his enlightenment. And he sees people as a budding lotus, a partially opened lotus flower, and a fully opened blossom, the lotus flower. Tara holds the stems of these three aspects of developing humanity. Okie doke, and now for something completely different. And this was hard, actually. This was hard because honestly, you know, I can't do him justice, the man. He has a historical biography, which is huge, the life and liberation of the times of Padmasambhava, something like that. And so he's such a mishmash of historical story and myths and legends, and lots of it is very magical and wild, and he will stop at nothing, Padmasambhava, to help us transform. He was discovered in a remote, on a remote lake in India. He was discovered sitting on a lotus in this remote lake by a king. And this little boy sitting on the lotus was 8 years old and spoke of these, I can't remember what he says now. My father is the wisdom of awareness, and my mother is the space of all things, something like this, he says. So the king, who is childless, adopts him and carts him off to a palace and looks after him. But Padmasambhava is just a wild energy. And in the end, I think it doesn't go entirely well, and he has to leave. He has to leave the palace, probably in his teenage years, I would imagine. But I think this is part of a story to show us that we can't domesticate our spiritual lives. Padmasambhava is definitely a wild person. And he is attributed with taking Buddhism from India to Tibet. And this is where the sort of historical canon comes in, and the stories of how he did this. And he goes to this very extremely different culture, something like Glasgow, I think, and transforms the demons and the local powers and the things that don't really want to be liberated. He gets them all on side somehow, and makes friends with them. There's nothing he can't do. And he's got Tibetan boots on, apparently, which I love. And he has a skull cap, which symbolizes shunyata and the end of the ego. And it's full of nectar of the great bliss. And he has this trident, which actually I think in the representations is, it represents the feminine, because he had consorts. So he had particular, what's her name? Yeshe, forgotten now, Vimlachita.
Yeshe Chogyal.
Yeshe Chogyal. So he is a synthesis. He brings, although he seems like this wild man, he actually has also got this feminine aspect to him and to his myths. And he has this red lotus hat with 5 jewels on it of the 5 wisdoms. And this wonderful face described as a wrathful smile. So it comprises of wisdom and compassion in this one look. And he has a pointy beard and a moustache. And he's a magician. And he really is a magician, so he can do all sorts of stuff. But basically, he's there to transform us. And yeah, he's not going to pull his punches. He's quite ruthless in some ways, although it is with this sort of compassionate ruthlessness. And he's just the most incredible figure, and it just seems ridiculous to be kind of glossing over him like this. He's something else all on his own. This is a good painting by Alaka, isn't it? And there's some great statues, rupas of him too. It's rather lovely. He's got his thunderbolt in the other hand there. Okay, and this is my last one, Pranya Paramita. And she's a very interesting female figure. And there were cults of hers, and so they got wiped out. So I suspect there's probably all sorts of images and stories and myths and things that we're kind of missing out on. But she emerged perhaps a little bit later than some of the others, because she's very associated with these teachings, which were delivered by the Nagas, Nagabodhi, from the depth. The Pranya Paramita is the perfection of wisdom teachings. And so this is the perfection of wisdom embodied in this female form. So she's a mature woman. She's sometimes called the mother of all the Buddhas. And it's said that she looks at them fondly and watches them playing. She has 2 lotuses, which each bear Pranya Paramita sutras. And her hands are in the mudra of teaching. There was something else I was going to say about her, and it's gone now. She's this I know. She's this lovely golden color, but actually she is like the galaxy of the Bodhisattvas, because it's as though they have all formed into the being of Pranya Paramita, because if you come close to her, you'll see that all the gold in her is actually tiny Buddhas. She's made up herself of tiny golden Buddhas. And this is very beautiful. There's a statue like this at Adhisthana in the courtyard, which is where I had my public ordination, actually, it was lovely to have that with Pranya Paramita presiding over it. And I think I've got one last slide, which is, I just really wanted to show you this, because this is Aloka, who's the order member who paints these fantastic rupas and beautiful, beautiful murals. And he's been very ill, and he's old, and he's still painting away. And I just wanted to honor him, actually, since I've pilfered his work to show you. And I remember when he was young and he used to live in a bit of a train at the end of a farm. Is that right? A train carriage in deepest Norfolk. And yeah, quite a remarkable person. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop sharing there and possibly hand, I know, because I want to play these mantras. So do I stay or does it matter?
Don't think it matters.
Okay, let's see what we can do. I'm going to stop sharing that. And I'm going to, bear with me, start with the Avalokiteshvara mantra. No, is that it? Yes. And this builds in 3 parts. Can you hear? Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 So these mantras can be done in different ways. So you may hear them done a little bit differently at some things. But that was Avalokiteshvara Om Mani Padme Hum. And then the next one at the end of our puja, we have Manjughosha. So here he comes. Om Marapatanadi, Om Marapatanadi, Om Marapatanadi, Om Marapatanadi, Om Marapachanadi, 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 Om
Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om Marapachanadi, Om.
So that was Manjagosha. And the next one we have is Vajrapani. And I think, I don't think Taraloka did do the Vajrapani mantra. So I found this one on YouTube and I thought it would make a nice contrast really. So mantras come in many different forms. I enjoyed that. So after Vajrapani, we have Tara.
Om Tare Tu Re Swaha. 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 Om
So that was the Tara mantra. And next we have Sambhava.
Om Ahom Vajguru Padma Siddhi Hom. 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 Om Ahom Vajguru Padma Siddhi Padma Siddhi. 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 Om Ahom Vajguru Padma Siddhi Om. 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 Om Ahom Vajguru Padma Siddhi Om.
I thought I'd play the whole of that one because it's so lovely. And the final one is Pranya Paramita. And actually she's associated with the Gate Gate mantra, which we often use at the end of the Heart Sutra as well. But in fact, her own mantra is short and it's just the symbol, the sound symbol for perfection of wisdom, I think.
Om Madi. Om Madi Hum Swaha. 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 Om Madi.
Okay, so that was my 6 mantras for you, and I think that's the end of my talk. I'm just going to end it there. So I hope I've given you a little bit of a taste of the wonderful infinite galaxy of Bodhisattvas.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Khemini. And I think you definitely did give us a taste. You said something about the mantras and the images sometimes having the tang of salt in the air that remind us of the ocean. And I think definitely I got sort of moments of that, of a kind of calling to something more, beyond my mundane mind and my mundane kind of life, you know, something that's sort of calling to something richer and realer and more expansive, and somehow the sort of imagination being a doorway in to that, and the sounds and the symbols and the colors. So, oh, thank you so much. It was so lovely to be able to see them, you know, and just sort of sit and look at some of those images for a while, or sit and listen to those sounds. Was really, really sort of magic. And I think, as you said, you know, in a way, there is all this imagery and color and myths and sounds, and then, but you also said, but that's in a way, that's not important. What's important is our response. That's what they're there for. You know, they're there to kind of to sort of pull something out of us, pull something of that quality that they represent out of us, pull something of that resonance. Yeah. And so whatever your response is, it is of interest, even if it's a kind of, oh no, you know, don't like that Vajrapani with all his stompiness, or, you know, don't like green tar, or you love something about one of the colors or the sounds, you know, in a way, that's your kind of way in, you know, is your response to those images. And sometimes I think there can be responses to them and we absolutely don't know why, you know, and that's quite a challenge, isn't it? You know, you respond to something in the image, but you couldn't name it and you couldn't say what it was or why it was. But again, that's a sort of a doorway into something new, something different, something maybe intuitive, rather than something that we can kind of, you know, kind of name and quantify and qualify. So yeah, thank you so much. I think you really brought something of the magic out in that.